Welcome. This is Basil's Imperial News Network. I'm your host, Casimir Basilius, here to bring you the latest galactic news of GSAC G1. Today's recording date is 18-1-7895. Now, without further delay, the news. Let's start with the main galactic news story. A team of independent scientists from one of the neutral territories have recently released a report indicating the ability to use an ancient FTL gate network to ping the ancient FTL gate network, basically to ping the network. Experts believe that this can potentially reveal the locations of and activate any ancient FTL gate connected to the network. Here we are. One moment while we bring up some visuals, not of this in particular, but some fancy stuff. Here we are. There we are. While we talk about FTL gate networks. So, currently, there are very few active known ancient FTL gates. Here's a quick breakdown of what this all means. The word ancient in ancient FTL gates, while it accurately refers to the age of the gates, in truth it refers to the fact that the gates were designed by the ancient nations. The ancient nations can and should be given their own lore episode at some point, but in very brief explanation, they were a series of somewhat advanced civilizations that existed in the distant past during the pre-FTL era. The ancient nations were long ago defeated by the Grand Empire, the faction I am a part of. Their galaxy-spanning network of FTL lanes that were not maintained long faded due to FTL fluctuations and weather. The lack of FTL upkeep. However, the gate network remains somewhat stable as the gates themselves maintain the FTL lanes. Any knowledgeable citizen of the galaxy might ask, every modern nation can generate FTL lanes, maintain them, and even construct FTL gates. What good do ancient FTL gates do us? Well, the answer is simple. Ancient FTL gates are usually jump gates. And while most of civilization can construct even FTL gates, even FTL jump gates even, the process is exceptionally expensive, time-consuming, and dangerous. A gate lane must be mapped, which means traveling through an unmapped FTL lane with advanced equipment. Well, traveling through unmapped FTL without a lane with advanced equipment. Pre-existing ancient gates are already spread throughout the galaxy and remove the dangers, cost, and time involved in the process of gate creation. Access to the network theoretically allows access to any available and active connected gate throughout the galaxy, as their network spanned the galaxy. Of course, the Empire sees no benefit from this, as we do not rely on ancient technologies, and our jump drives are far more advanced than the Galactic Standard jump drive. So for the Empire, we will see no benefit of this. In fact, it is concerning that the rest of civilization will be using these gates, but it should be of no major concern to the Empire. But for the rest of the galaxy, you all will see quite a increase in travel if this proves true. Now, for some galactic politics. The N-Star and the robots of the Coalition have officially withdrawn from the Systems Authority Alliance. Along with the Commonwealth, this marks the third major nation to leave the Systems Authority Alliance. The robots of the Coalition declined to comment on this. However, we did receive information from the N-Star stating that they had achieved their goals in the Alliance, while the Commonwealth have made peace with the allied central nations. Both the N-Star and the robots of the Coalition have not officially done so. It is believed by many Imperial analysts that the goals that the Enster sought to achieve was bioweapons testing and abduction of biomaterials from the rest of the galaxy. However, we have no official proof of this. It is the Enster's standard operating procedure to collect specimens, sentient beings from the rest of the galaxy, as they often don't view non-Enster life as, well, sentient, despite proof otherwise. And they are known to test bioweapons on non-Enster throughout the galaxy. Well, they are known to seek the excuses to do so. Anyway, that brings us to news of the actual galactic war proper. The Council remnants have begun a large counteroffensive against the Systems Authority forces. Council remnant military forces have moved to occupy Council breakaway nations. Several former Council nations have sought independence, now find themselves not only in conflict with the Systems Authority, but against the Council remnant forces proper. Our analysts believe that with the output of the Council Core Dyson swarms and the current border conflict with the Systems Authority, several of the breakaway nations are likely to fall. And we have an opinion piece related to this. This is an opinion from a former Council citizen on this matter. Quote, after the fall of the Council, the ordered retreat of its many fleets and resulting power vacuum, the Systems Authority was the natural reaction to many displaced soldiers, from the highest-ranking officials to the common infantry. Some would call it a rebellion, but I personally would call it an adequate response. These so-called traitors usurped the local government that stole from the people of our planet through tithes and taxes, killed thousands in yearly suppression strikes throughout our urban centers, all while our rural provinces were starved. The Council Corps did nothing to stop them. All production, whether it be medical, industrial, or agricultural, went to the government or its elites. I saw firsthand with my own father being taken by the government riot suppression teams, never to be seen again. I watched as my mother was beaten by the gangs who stood by the automated ration booths because she couldn't pay her fee. I watched her heart break while my little sister nearly died of infection because our water was tainted. The Systems Authority, while some would describe it as cruel, was calculated in its efforts. Where thousands died monthly, it was hundreds. Where people were starved, they were fed, provided with real food under the watch of Systems Authority infantry. Where the government stood by and did nothing in their massive guarded towers, they came to rest, hung by the same light posts that were always off because of the rolling blackouts. Crime went from a fact of everyday life to a story we tell our children to keep them from staying out too late. Under the local government, I ate nothing but rations and beef-flavored broth for the first 16 years of my life. It was only when the Systems Authority came I got to experience what real ground beef tastes like. We saw firsthand what a functional dictatorship was capable of, and I, at the very least, can confidently say that it is a preferable alternative to what existed here before. Signed, Cyrilline Kruger, age 47, end quote. We would like to thank our conscript, Maxwell, for going out and conducting the interview. As we can see here, the Council's poor attempts at maintaining several thousand sub-nations and neglecting their borders created a large divide between their people, unable to even properly control the governments that were part of their alliance that they formed, neglecting the border worlds to fend for themselves. Lastly, I am required to note that the Grand Empire is currently at war with the Systems Authority. And now for our sponsor segment. Today's sponsor is Crunchy Bits. Tired of buying food just for it to go bad and spoil? Don't want to spend time preparing a meal? Crunchy Bits are the answer. Crunchy Bits provide a quick and fast meal when you need it most. On the move, take a bag of Crunchy Bits. Want a meal but don't know what to make? Crunchy Bits come in a vast variety of flavors. With so many flavors, it's easy to mix a bunch together and make the meal you want. Mix some beef crunchy bits and teriyaki crunchy bits to make beef and teriyaki. In the mood for breakfast instead? Sweet cereal crunchy bits are for you. Just add some milk or eat 'em plain. Perhaps add some cocoa crunchy bits for a bit of variety. The possibilities are endless. Order crunchy bits today. Now, commerce and economy. This week's economic news will focus on sector E40. Currently, E40 has seen a slight increase in the import of military equipment due to a few local wars. However, intersystem trade of most other goods in the sector has taken a downturn, as a report from military analysts believes that the local wars may be part of a wider plan instigated by the systems authority. This report has caused many of the local nations in the area to stockpile their goods and resources, and has increased the shipping prices into the sector by and throughout the sector by over 500%. Trade continues to be on a significant rise in the in the neutral territories to the Galactic West due to the trade and transit lanes diverted through the territory due to the Second Galactic War. Economists expect this to remain the case for the duration of the conflict. Let's see whether we can't bring up a proper view of this location. One moment while we see if our conscripts can't do that. There we are. Very good. As you can see here, the war lines remain mostly the same on the sector scale. Trade is being diverted essentially through the neutral territories to get from the northern half to the southern half of the council territories and to the frontier. This has, of course, as stated, increased trade in the neutral territories. And as we stated, weather and traffic. Well, weather in quotation marks and traffic. Here is our overview, so we can also show where anything is. As per usual, travel through the center of the Galactic Council, as shown, remains difficult given the position of the star systems, position of the Systems Authority control and Council military fleets in those star systems. Travel through should travelers heading to the area should expect checkpoints and searches in every system on most FTL routes in and around the conflict areas. Most transit and trade between both halves continues to be diverted through the galactic west neutral space territories over here. And that is why we will see an increase in economic output, well, in trade and economic revenues in those sectors. Elsewhere, and in other news, reports indicate that an exceptionally large FTL disruption is due to affect the central nations. A large storm is approaching from the galactic north and is increasing in size. It is expected to cause instability to FTL as it passes through on its way south, heading through Imperial territories towards the southern frontier. We are likely to see it hit in this area and head south. It will likely cause instability as it does so. We expect temporary loss and degradation of intersystem communication and FTL transit starting in the north and slowly moving south along with the FTL stormfront. Unfortunately, due to the nature of predicting FTL fluctuations and weather, we do not exactly know the exact extent of the situation. But as it develops, we will continue to keep you informed of any major disruptions and events involving this storm front. Now, let's close off with a small local news story. Here we are. This local news story comes from a lesser nation in the neutral territories. A collection of incomplete orbital habitats have finally been released for use after the dissolution of the company that originally began production of them. The stations were acquired by the local nation's government, who intend to finish construction on the stations and convert several of them into a collection of orbital nature reserves. Once completed, this is expected to increase tourism, prote- proje- protect several wildlife species, and act as a beacon of pride for the nation. While this is not an uncommon thing to see happen throughout the galaxy, we here want to highlight this as an example not only of what is happening in some corners of the galaxy, but as something that we here in the Grand Empire encourage. Anyway, this concludes our brief Galactic News broadcast, Basil's Imperial News Network, for all your galactic news of GSAC G1. We hope that you have a wonderful day. We will likely return shortly. I say shortly, probably in a few hours. We will return with a work stream in which we will just hang around and work on some Galactic Requiem things, stats, working on maps and so forth. But we will take a quick break before we do that. I say quick, it'll be a few hours before we are back. So, thank you all for stopping by, and we will likely see you in a few hours.